Hi, welcome to Save Your Books. This is my live restoration series that is covering the restoration of this little nutshell library set, which has some issues. And the thing I'm talking about today is color touch-up on the dust jackets. Let's see if I can get that. There you go, a little bit of that. And there's another spot that also needs a little bit of help. So let's see. So we're going to be just figuring this out. And there are, of course, all kinds of different things you can use to color something. Colored crayons, not maybe a great idea for this. Colored pencils, which I've got some colors, and I've got watercolor pencils. And I've also got acrylic paints, which is a good option for some kinds of coloring things. All of these are relatively good options for coloring things. The problem with coloring dust jackets is that the color can go through. You can actually, whatever you use to color anything that needs coloring, can wind up soaking through, and then you see it on the inside, which is aesthetically not nice, and also just kind of, ruins the effect. So that's a thing to be avoided, is having the color, whatever you're using, bleed through the paper. It's also one of the great telltales to know if a book has been, or rather if a dust jacket has been restored. So you can just tell if that's happened or not by picking up the dust jacket and looking at it through with some light behind it, and you'll be able to see any coloration like really easily. So meanwhile, I'm going to change the camera angle and go down to my hands and looking at the things I'm working on. I'm also going to repair this so that it's connected again. There's actually not that much missing. I'll show you how to do that. All right, here we go. Okay. Oops. What the heck? I'm having trouble with my camera. It's not letting me watch what my hands are doing. So I'm going to keep going, even though I can't necessarily see what I'm doing, or what you see. I'm trying to see what you see, and oh, technology, don't you love it? Okay. So this one has just some rubbing on it, this little Pierre book. And so I got out my colored pencils, and I have quite a few. Like, this is how many watercolor pencils I have. I also have all these other colored pencils. The quality varies, although I love the PRANG, however you pronounce that, prong. Those are a nice quality. And I got out a bunch of my blues, and I'm like, none of these match. Blues are so hard. They're just all over the place. They're greenish, they're reddish. It's super hard to find something that matches. And you could take the time to get acrylic paints, or watercolor paints, whatever you archival kind of paints you could use, and you could match the color precisely, which I've done many times. But that's going to take you a half an hour at least, and you have to try it out on I usually test things out on a little bit of Sakishu, and then hold it up and see if the color's matching. And if you're going to use paints, you would have to make sure that they dry completely before you compare it, because the color changes as it dries. with colored pencils, I like to use the non-watercolor ones because the watercolor ones can soak through the paper. And I'm just going to show you an example of that. I'm going to test out these colors that I've got and take a look at that. And actually, I'm going to use a board underneath it. I don't want to get the grain of the wood when I'm scribbling on this Sakishu. So here I've got this color, trying to match this Pierre book right here. This is turquoise. And let's just take a little look at that. That's actually not too bad. And then we'll take a look at this, which is a light blue. I like to kind of put them right next to each other so you can tell. And then we've got the sky blue. That is very close to the light blue. Makes sense. Anyway, so there's that. Really want to draw on this board, so I'm going to put this white sheet of paper underneath it. Okay, so those are my regular colored pencils, and I'm just going to do my watercolor pencils right next to it. That one is the number 17, doesn't say. Here is a number 21. Getting off of there. And this one is the number 16. These are Derwent. So an interesting thing I'm noticing as I'm doing this is that the watercolor pencils are, I don't know, kind of filling in more. They're these are a little more sketchy, but that's just something to notice. All right, so we've got this, and then I just want to demonstrate what happens. So I've got a little brush here, and I'm just going to get that wet with the watercolors. Look how nicely it fills in there. It's great. Get another brush, clean brush, wet. And I'm also going to do that to the non-watercolor pencils. And you'll notice that the non-watercolor pencils also fill in. And then we're going to flip that over, and we're just going to take a look at what's going on there. So the watercolor pencils soaked through completely. The non-watercolor pencils soaked through. I guess I got more on that one. Let's see if I do that more, if it goes through. Yeah, it's going through. I'm just kind of pointing out, it's like watercolor pencils are going to soak through more. The non-watercolor pencils are less likely to go through. They're still going to go through. That's just what coloration does on paper. But I do like to stick to the non-watercolor pencils if at all possible, because they don't bleed as much as the others. So I've got my dust jacket here, and I just have to point out, first of all, if you have a really valuable rare book, you should not do any coloration on it whatsoever. Don't touch it. Put it in a protective cover if that works for you, and it'll fit into the box later. Otherwise, don't touch it. This will lower the value of really expensive valuable books. If you have a book like that would be a bad thing to do. So this is my book, It's not a first edition, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna give this coloration thing a try, partly just for your benefit and partly for my own benefit, because I do love these little books and I want to see if I can, make them look a little nicer on the shelf. I'm looking at these colors again, thinking about them, and I'm actually really liking this third one, if I can remember which one that is. I think the first one was turquoise and then light blue and then sky blue. I'm going to try the sky blue again just to see what I think. Right. So I'm going to just try this on a little tiny section and see what happens. And actually, to make it easier for the color to get from the pencil to the dust jacket, you can add a little water. I know it's weird. It's like you have to balance it all. You have to balance the wetness that you don't want to go through to the fact that you would like to not scratch the dust jacket with your pencil. So I'm just going to try this tiny little bit right here. And you can see, I don't know, I guess you can't see that. I'm just dipping it in a little tiny puddle of water over here. I'm checking it to see how bad it is on this paper towel. And I'm going, okay, I don't want it too wet. And I'm just coloring that in right there. And let's hold that up so you can see what that looks like. And I will also flip that over so you can see that I avoided the color coming through. So that's not bad, not a bad thing. I'm kind of worried to start doing it right here because I know it's going to really show up right there. And this is looking, I feel like this section of the book is darker than this section of the book. And so I'm going to switch over to this turquoise. I'm going to try the turquoise. I'm going to try it in a different section and see what happens. Just want some more water in there. That's better. Okay, so now I'm going to try this at the very bottom here. That's feeling a little light to me. I'm going to switch over to the light blue. Whenever you are filling in a little lighter section than the rest of it, the most important thing is to not extend your new color onto the original color, because you'll wind up with, a target area. It'll emphasize the ring around it. So that's really crucial to any color touch-up. So I'll just show you what that looks like so far. And I'm like, yeah, it's, I think it's gonna show up less, which is kind of what I'm going for, is I don't want to draw the eye to the white parts of it anymore. But I'm thinking I'm going to go back to the light blue, which was the darker one. Let's see, is that the darker one? Yeah. And do a little sky blue. Yeah. Oh no, sky blue. That's the darker one. Keep them straight. Yeah, that's the darker one. I'm going to do the darker one a little bit right along the spine. I mean, you could spend hours just filling in these tiny little spots, which I'm not going to do, but I just really wanted to. Oh, now there you go. I made a little darker mark than I wanted. I definitely do not want that little bit of darkness right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a cotton swab. I'm going to get a little bit damp. I'm going to rub it off so it's just got a little bit of that, and I'm going to try and remove that a little bit. And you can see I got some of that off, and now it's looking better right on there. It's like this, you put it on, you take it off. That's a lot of restoration is that mode of putting things on and taking it off again. I'm going to move back to this turquoise for this larger area. Try to keep it not so wet. It's kind of almost like the French pointillisme, pointillism, however you want to pronounce that. Trying to put this down on here. As I was pressing just now, you probably couldn't hear that, but I could hear that. There was like a small tearing noise, which was not good, which is why you want the more watery, aspect of this, except once again, not actually watery. You have to have just the right amount of moisture to just transfer the color without having it soak through. I guess you could just, practice till you get a sense of what that's like. I'm also thinking that it's not helping to be doing this on top of this paper towel. I'm going to remove the paper towel from underneath it. I'll keep it over here for my blotting, but having that flatter will be safer. Yep, I'm just coloring in tiny little dots and seeing what that's looking like. Sometimes the, exposed paper, the white, which has been, rubbed off of the blue, is more accepting of color than other times. It really just depends on the paper and what it's been through. This is why I can't do this on my clients' books when I'm doing these live restorations, because you never know when something's going to go wrong. That would be really bad. Anyway, I feel like this is getting there. I've kind of demonstrated how this works. I'm going to show you the reverse side of this. Nothing has come through. That's the goal, is to have nothing come through and to still make this side look a little better. I'm going to continue working on this off camera, and next week when I come back, I'll show you more of what I've figured out. Oh, one other thing is that on these, I know I have another one. Sorry, I'm looking for my really tiny pen. This is the 0.08, which is way too thick for this. I have a 0.05, which is better. I'm not seeing it in my usual spot, so I'm gonna have to look for that. If you wanted to touch up any of the black lines, you can use not 0.08 because that's too big, but there's an even finer one. I'll take a look for that. It's disappeared. I don't know where it went. Okay. Meanwhile, I wanted to show you guys how I'm going to reattach these two pieces together. Set aside all this coloring stuff. I got some blue on my board. Oh, I didn't realize my finger was wet. I'm going to erase that, but I'm also going to just flip it over. Oh, goodness. That's fun, too. That was a dead bug. I don't know where that came from. Nothing good. Nothing good can come from that. All right. It's summer. I mean, it was summer. Probably came from that. All right. Here we are. And this is... That's basically how this is going to go back together. But before we get there, I want to flatten out all of this stuff. You see how that came apart, and make sure that everything here is perfectly flat. And you don't even have to iron this, but what we do need to do is to help the fibers relax. Typically, I'm not going to tell you to get your books wet or your dust jackets, wet. But in this case, I actually want to humidify this area. And so I'm going to lightly spray it. This is just water. It's clean water, but there you go. So now it has some moisture on it, and that literally helps the fibers to relax so that when I'm pressing them out, pressing everything, and here is a Teflon folder. It doesn't stress it out, and it lets it all come back together. So let's see. Yeah, if you have any overlapping areas, you want to make sure that those are in the correct location. Oh, look at that. I really just got the A back from alligators just by doing that. Before I even lose that again, I'm going to get some paste. This is the nori paste. It's a rice starch paste, straight out of the jar. It's a brand name. Straight out of the jar, it's a little thick, so I tend to water it down a little. And I just want to encourage those two spots to stay together. And I'm looking around to see if there are any other little flaps, and I'm noticing there's a layer here. So I can just put that back, and that might be it as far as layers go. I'm just going to check on this side. This side is pretty much, fine. It's already where it needs to be, so I don't need to do anything for that. All right, that is now even more correct. Now this is the part you really need to know, is that we need to put it back together around its book. We can't just do it like this, because if we do, it might not fit the book later. So always bring it back to the original object. So here's my book, and I've got some wax paper. Let's see. Wrapping it around the book. I'm just going to tuck it in as though the wax paper is a dust jacket. That way as I'm working on this, I won't get anything on the book. And I'm going to kind of start putting the book jacket back on. It actually doesn't matter a great deal if it's right side up or upside down to this book, because it's all gonna get, you know, either way it's gonna be fine. It's going on the same book. And I'm tapping it all to the bottom, so it's situated like that. Oh, I'm noticing that the wax paper is not, it's kind of bowed up, and if I tried to put the new piece on, it might not work very well. I've got an idea how to fix this. I'm going to do a temporary bit of tape. So hold on, I have to actually go get the blue painter's tape because that's less sticky. Okay, I got that. Less is more. Jogging this to the bottom. Actually, the first, whichever one I do first won't matter if it's tight or not, because the other one will fix it. So I'm just taping around there. Now I can tighten this up, have it be flat to the bottom, or the tail end of the book is the bottom. Okay, and now put that there. Kind of wishing I had made this the exact height. I feel like that could have been a little easier. Now I'm winding up folding things, which is not ideal. Maybe I can just tear that a little bit. Kind of learning as I'm going along here. I haven't ever done this tiny dust jacket repair before. So, brand new for me too. All right. Alligators all around. Okay. There we go. Jogged to the bottom. Okay. Just that's where you can really see the original break. It was right there. We want this connected there, and then some of this is going to be and probably connected there. So let's see here. I'm going to use this tiny little weight that I have here and there. All right, and I'm going to use some of this natural Sakishu. Here we go. A little piece of that. Let that go. I'm just doing a rough cut right now, so big enough for sure. And paste out on this because I can. And I am pasting this whole section. I actually want this to go, I'm going to use the Sakishu as a strengthener as well as just filling in. So I'm going to go a little further along on here than I might if it were perfectly strong in the first place. But this needs a little extra. So I pasted the item, which you could paste either way, but I wanted it to be really precise for this. And now I'm just kind of going over those little fluffy edges, the tear things, and just pasting those down. Okay. So ideally, we wait for this to dry before we move on to the next bit. But you know, we're on camera. That's hard to do. So I'm just going to bring it around. All right. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this edge and attach it. And then I'm going to check my work after it's barely attached. Because we're using paste, everything's reversible. And so if I make a mistake, I can redo it, which is great. So I'm pushing everything into place. And pressing that down. I'm just going to take a look at it. You can see that this is connecting right where I wanted it to. I'm curious to see if this little gap is needed or if I need to push this closer to it. And the way I'm going to check that now is to unfold all of this and see if it's lined up. I know it fits on it now. That's the important thing. These are just little favor boxes I bought at a craft supply store, and you fill them with a few pennies, and they're great little instant weights, and you can decorate them too. I just didn't yet. All right, so those are like that, and I'm just going to grab one of my straight edges, and I'm going to see if that is indeed straight, which, look at that. That is indeed straight. That's great. I'll check this side. And that also is perfectly straight, which means all of this area here, that's real losses that are just, you know, wore away from usage of the book. Okay, so how do I fix that up? And well, I mean, you could fill in with some more Sakishu. And another thing you could do, this is I just had this idea. I may have to do this. I don't know. I could actually make a photocopy of this onto some Sakishu. I could pull out this color and I could blow it up a little bit so I'd actually have some Sakishu with that color on it. But as we know, copying onto Sakishu is not ideal. This is a copy I made onto Sakishu from the newer dust jacket, from not this original dust jacket. And it does have a lot of good qualities. But I think I did it too dark. I think I'm going to have to go, figure out a better coloring for this if I was going to fill this in. Of course, another thing to do would be, this is actually not a bad idea. So we take some more Sakishu. We can color it with some of that turquoise maybe, or yeah, probably the turquoise. And I can, color it in this really general way. And then I could, tear it to match precisely in there. And that's one way to get new color in there, is to color it before you put it in there. You could also fill in very carefully with the Sakishu and just, get a piece that's basically the right shape. Since it's so messy, it doesn't have to be, kind of perfect. So I could get that in there, and I could actually do these little tiny repairs with the Sakishu and paste, and then color them in. But like I said, I think coloring them in is probably going to be the better way. I'm not confident with my colors though. I'm not liking them so far. They're not a perfect match for me. Not liking them. So I might have to wait on this a little bit. Once I have that little part filled in and figured out, then I'm going to remove this excess, or I could do that now actually. There's no reason not to do that now. That didn't attach as well as I would like right there, so I can just attach that better. Yeah.